The Boston Bruins rumor mill continues to heat up, and this time a massive report has linked the Boston Bruins to two of the top targets in the NHL at this very moment. I'm going to be breaking down everything, and Bruins fans may not like what this report has to say, but before we get into all of this news, we know so 75% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to get all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins related, and we're at the point now where we're seeing many more trade reports just like this, and you won't want to miss what we have to bring. And remember, I'm here to bring you the news as soon as Don Sweeney is fired, so you won't want to miss it. Hit the sub button and join me here. But let's get straight into this video. There's no point in waiting on this, because this is something that a lot of Bruins fans have really looked for and really hoped to see at some point. This one from Mark D'Amico. Per sources, the Bruins have been in talks with the Canucks regarding their top two centers, JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. Now, we know there's been a bit of a predicament over in Vancouver with these two players. These two players apparently not getting along, apparently getting along. We don't really know. But the Vancouver Canucks have reportedly been looking for a trade. And Mark D'Amico, a Montreal Canadiens reporter, something to keep in mind, have linked the Boston Bruins to the Canucks and put them together in trade talks. Now, we know that one of these trades, or two, or whatever it may be, would certainly help the Boston Bruins. We've not had the greatest depth at center this season. I know we went out and acquired Elias Lindholm to add to that, but we saw Elias Lindholm struggle early, have some success, struggle once again, so we really haven't seen the exact Elias Lindholm we want yet to. But we have guys like Matt Poitras, some other guys in the AHL, some other players who found that some success, and there's really just been a mix of everybody playing at center. But of course, we still kind of lack that number one center the Bruins were looking for reportedly in the offseason, and either of these two, JT Miller or Elias Pettersson, would be that center, ideally, that the Bruins would be looking for. And I do want to continue on to this, and since previous reports suggest the Canucks are looking for a top six center in return for JT Miller or Pettersson, that's where the package would begin, and the other team would need to add that. So, looking at that and looking at what would more likely be probably a top six forward, maybe another player or a prospect and a pick, that in my mind would likely be what the case would be. The Vancouver Canucks are not, totally stricken to have to trade one of these two. We see these reports saying that there are some, struggles going on between these two on the inside in the locker room, these two players beefing or whatever you want to call it, whatever is happening on the side of the Vancouver Canucks, but they don't have to trade one. So putting that into consideration and putting that into terms, the Vancouver Canucks do not have to, they don't have no leverage. They have all the leverage in the world, and being able to trade one of these two and make something like that to get out of the news would be getting what they would want. And of course, a top six forward, being a pick, another player would be part of that. Now, the Bruins have quite a bit that they could trade. We've been talking about this for just about the entire season, being Trent Frederic, Pavel Zacha, Brandon Carlo. Those are the ones who are really in the news right now and really available right now, according to Boston Bruins sources and people all kind of in tune with the matter. Looking at what we could have, the Bruins could build a package that matched those needs. They have roster players like Pavel Zacha, Brandon Carlo, Morgan Geekie, Charlie Coyle, who could all fit the bill as those top six centers, or a top four defenseman. Mason Lohrei, Matt Poitras, and Fabian Lysell, or a top pick, could help round out the package. Now, I know this is just me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys think about this as well. Let me know in the comments what you think about what I'm about to say. But in no way am I trading Mason Lohrei, Matt Poitras, Fabian Lysell, or even a top pick right now for Elias Pettersson or JT Miller. Elias Pettersson would be the one that I would probably lean towards. He's a younger player. Right now still has a lot more potential in my mind, but JT Miller on the older side, really just kind of another Elias Lindholm in my mind. But Elias Pettersson would be the one that I would favor in this deal. But looking at Zacha, Carlo, Geekie, and Coyle, those four, absolutely. You would put those in a deal in a heartbeat, make something work, obviously, if it wasn't too much and everything like this. But putting Lohrei, Poitras, Lysell, and a pick in a trade with either of those four players makes no sense for the Boston Bruins right now. This team, we're in a bit of a predicament. We know that. I don't want to say we're bad, even though we are, but I don't want to, I'm trying to make some optimism here. The Bruins are going to need to get these younger players into the lineup sooner rather than later. And the fact that we're not trying to win now, and, or the fact that the Bruins have not brought them up, really tells me that they're not really trying to win now. Those are the guys that would help you a lot. And the fact that we're seeing Don Sweeney not make any moves really does not help his case for becoming or continuing to be the GM of the Boston Bruins, or really at least make a move this season. And I think that if we are in the situation where we see Don Sweeney in the hot seat, he's not going to make a move. And although that really may sound contradictory, that might be a bit of a spite from Don Sweeney, knowing that likely this is his last year as Bruins GM if this season continues the way it is. which really gives me zero optimism on either bringing any of these guys up or even in the bigger picture, making a trade for a guy like JT Miller or Elias Pettersson in a big deal like the following that we had just seen. And the way that the kind of structure, the way we played out with this, the way that we are seeing Don Sweeney and everybody kind of think about this season and react to it and feel it out and what they're doing, once again, gives me no hope that there's going to be any move coming soon on the front of a top player for a trade. Maybe bring up Matt Poitras here or there. Matt Poitras should be the number one guy up in the NHL at this very moment, yet they have still not brought him up. They've brought up many names around him and not even almost considered Matt Poitras, which is really makes no sense to the Bruins fans, to our community, just watching everything. We're trying to win games. Matt Poitras would be the guy to make that happen. So looking at it that way, we kind of get stuck on that side of the coin as well for this type of thing. And when we do look at this, obviously, as I mentioned, Pavel Zacha, Elias Lindholm, Trent Frederic, and John Beecher. Mark Kastelic takes the center there on occasion. Most occasions, I should say. John Beecher on the left and Cole Koepke on the right. But looking at Zacha, Lindholm, and Frederic, there is not one player there that is number one center. Elias Lindholm maybe once was. Now he's not, I don't think. I still think that he's better in the number two, especially on that line with Marchand and Coyle. And, a few movements around there. But having Pavel Zacha on the first line center really, is not available. It's not something the Bruins need or should have in this specific scenario. We need to have that number one center, and that's been a big part of where we've seen the lack of success in this season is at the faceoff dot, and not just specifically on the faceoffs, but that position in the zone, setting up everything, defensive centers, everything like that has been a big factor as to why the Bruins have not found that success this season, due to Don Sweeney not having anybody to fill that role. So it does all come down back to the GM, back to the way this team is built, back to the staff. But as I've mentioned multiple times in this video, this trade is a good one for the Boston Bruins. Will it happen? I really don't think so because of Don Sweeney, because where the Bruins are facing. Obviously, if they were to get better, if they want to get better, yes, you would make this trade. No doubt in my mind, but the fact that they're wanting to add, or supposedly, whatever you want to call it, adding Matt Poitras, Fabian Lysell, Mason Lohrei, a top pick I could maybe even think about, I'd consider, but none of those players that I just mentioned in that, alongside one of the guys that are bound to be traded by this Boston Bruins team. But when we're looking at it as well, the Bruins not being in a win-now mode is really surprising. Obviously, they need to be, they should be, they're still in the playoff spot by some sense of the imagination, third in the Atlantic, not even in the wild card right now, however, do have a few more games on hand compared to the people and the teams in that wild card spot, so it probably wouldn't be long until we do see ourselves out or in the wild card. And, if they want to stay on this, if they want a chance, and obviously we've seen teams turn it around from mid-season, the All-Star break, this case, it would be the Four Nations Cup, turn it around to the playoffs and make it. I don't want to say the Bruins can't do this, but if they don't make any moves, if they keep the exact same team, if they don't bring anybody up from the AHL, this will continue to happen, and maybe we do see Don Sweeney want to make a splash. Maybe we see him go out here, try and make a push to stay with this team, but really the way that we're seeing it, the way he's getting called up by the fans, I really do think that this is just a spite, upcoming few months for Don Sweeney by not making any moves. And the way that we've really wanted to see this team has not been the way, but when we're looking at these players here in Elias Pettersson and JT Miller, this is certainly something that would take a lot of maneuvering to be able to work. Elias Pettersson, of course, the guy that I mentioned that I think would be the best option for the Boston Bruins, currently expiring in 2032, $11.6 million a season. That is quite a sum to be able to fit in your lineup, even though he's only 26. He could be a special player for this Bruins team. And JT Miller, 31 years old, expiring in 2030, 5 more years at $8 million. That's not a feasible contract, not a feasible age for the Boston Bruins at this very moment, but we can kind of look at what these two players have and think about how they would affect the Bruins, how they would work for the Bruins, and the stats they put up this season. Obviously, Elias Pettersson currently on the IR. JT Miller spent some time away from the team, both still putting up great numbers this season, both still having that option to, stick with what they're supposed to do. JT Miller, almost at 32 years old, still about point per game, 8 goals, 21 assists, then going back to Elias Pettersson, 10 goals, 18 assists. You can both say neither of these guys are really having the best season of their career, but yet we're still waiting to see if they're going to be moved. The Boston Bruins being linked is at least something. It's at least something for us, and hopefully, obviously, something comes out of it. Will it? I'm going to say I doubt it. I hate to say it, but I really don't think any of the Bruins will make a move with the Canucks after just seeing how the season's going, I don't think the Canucks are going to want anything cheap. So let me know what you think about this report in the comments below. I think it's something interesting to keep an eye on, but I really don't think we're going to see a lot come out of it. But if you did enjoy the video, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. And remember, I'll be keeping you up to date with every bit of Don Sweeney firing news that we have. I'll be bringing you guys that news as soon as we get it. But if you did enjoy the content, of course, obviously subscribe. And if you want your Bruins content, you're in the right spot. But that's all I got. If you did enjoy, like I said, give it a like, hit the sub button. I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.